welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics podcast here at Motor City Metrics Baseball on YouTube, and you can find us at tigersmlreport.com. I'm Rogelio Castillo. Alongside me is Uper. I think Chris will be along. I'm not really sure. John has a night off, and you can find us on, pardon me being under the weather. So first and foremost, if you're watching us on YouTube and realize that I have a hoodie on, that is saying something when it's like 93 degrees outside. I'm freezing.
Wow,
yes,
really?
I'm freezing. The AC is on here, but normally AC doesn't bother me. I can, be fine. But there'll be a lot of times where, excuse me, I'll be muting myself to cough because coughing on the mic is rude. So, but plenty to get to this evening. But you can find us again on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or listen to your podcast. And again, please check out our friends over at Bleachers to Speakers, as they're going to be starting recording every Monday night, starting at 6:30. I believe as soon as next week. So, but yeah, we got plenty to get to this evening. We have the Tigers taking on the Houston Astros this weekend. Friday will be Matt Manning against. Yes, there's plenty. Also, some rest in pieces to get to too. What former are you familiar with wrestling at all, Uper?
From way back, not so much the last couple decades.
You know what? People are. Yeah, I'm wondering where Chris is too. I'm texting him now. So a wrestler by the name, and I'm familiar with, and John wanted me to do this, and I'm doing it for him. And also, Bray Wyatt passed away. That was a wrestler who passed away today. And excuse me. All right. Yeah, it sucks, and it's just getting to the point where it's like yeah. I was familiar with him a little bit in the last few years. I don't watch wrestling like I used to.
Yeah,
tune in time to time. So Matt Manning against Valdez on Friday. Rodriguez taking on Detroit product Hunter Brown on Saturday, and Justin Verlander and versus Alex Fidel on Sunday. Oh, Terry Funk died? Really? Oh, I missed that. Oh man,
Terry Funk. No, that's the one I know. The Funk Brothers.
Oh man, Terry Funk is a hardcore legend. I watched a documentary. I forgot what documentary it was on, but that guy was a hardcore. I mean, we're talking tougher than nails. Terry Funk. Some of the matches he was in, he was huge in Japan. Man, that sucks. Yeah. I did not know Terry Funk died. Thank you, Deadly Ninja Beats, and thank you, Jeff. I think Jeff Johnson actually said that first there. That was when he said, it took me a second to realize what was going on. But like I said, Beyond the Mat, thank you. Yeah, that was where I first was encountered with Terry Funk. But yeah, that's, yeah. And I just finished a season of Beyond or Dark Side of the Ring too, which was the Marty Jannetty last episode.
Uh-huh.
That was you're talking about a guy
the
who
high
did
flyers,
every drug.
Right?
Pardon me?
They were the High Flyers, right?
Yeah, he was part of the Rockers. Yeah, with what's his face? Shawn Michaels. And they had a really good rapport. But he was talking about every drug underneath the sun, and apparently he admitted to a murder that he didn't do, and it was crazy. Some crazy stuff here. And but yeah, so Chris is coming on right now. He's having some computer issues, so just a heads up. But plenty of news to get to. In addition to the Tigers, we'll get to them in a second. But big news this week. Two things. One, Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams have been fired by the White Sox, and there's rumors of them going to Nashville. So in the report in Crane's Chicago Business, Greg Hines reports that the White Sox are considering a move to Nashville, that because the White Sox leases a guaranteed rate field expires in 6 years, Jerry Reinsdorf is considering selling his ownership of the baseball team to focus on his controlling interest in the Bulls. So, thank you, Chris. You did the hard work for me.
There he is.
Yeah, but just a heads up. There'll be a lot of times where I'm gonna literally go like this, and I'm gonna
You're hitting the cough button. I like it.
Yeah, hit the cough button.
Oh, that's a bummer. Sorry.
Yeah,
you got the nice Flying Tigers hat on though, right?
Thank you. Yes, the Tiger Town. Yes, this is my favorite one. I don't think they even make this one anymore. I don't think. I haven't seen it in a while. But
we got Aaron
I'll tell you,
there, smiling for some reason.
What'd you say?
Gary Reinsdorf to say he's going to go focus on the Bulls is pretty funny. The dude's 87. How much focus does he have left?
And considering that the Bulls have brought him pretty much all his fortune, essentially, minus one World Series.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess stadiums just aren't built anymore. They're built for what, 30, 40 years now. Like, this makes me think we're about 5 years away from starting to hear about the replacement for Comerica Park. I'm like,
oh, no question.
And it's just like, come on, man, what? But I don't know, when you can force the city to give you a bunch of money and get those luxury boxes in there, you got to do it.
Oh, I think they'll do it. The thing about it is guaranteed rate field there, old new Comiskey. Have you guys ever been there?
New Comiskey? Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. I've been there twice. It's terrible.
Yeah,
I heard the food was good though, right? I heard the food was good there though, right?
Oh, the food's fantastic.
It's Chicago. There's a bunch of Pakistanis running around.
Yeah, we're gonna say, Uber. I'm sorry.
It's very steep. If you're up on the upper deck, it was like, wow, you're gonna tumble out of there and die. But basically, I think that stadium was kind of it went up just before they started to care about aesthetics, right? Where the stadium would be really part of the experience, like Camden Yards and what was Pac Bell out in San Francisco and so on. They were like a destination. The new Comiskey was never built. It was just basically a cookie cutter. Let's slap this thing up and let's go. And that's what they got.
Yeah.
So there's no shock that they're looking to get out of there.
Yeah, they added the old scoreboard, the swirly scoreboard, and then because the old Comiskey had the green seats, and I think, and Michael's correct about that too. They missed the opportunity to kind of take advantage of the aesthetic of old school, comparatively speaking, to Camden Yards. And there's been talk too with Camden Yards, at least coming up. Baltimore wants a new stadium too, but I mean, this is the same jackass in John Angelos who saying, "Well, these players are going to cost money." Well, crap, Sherlock.
We can't sign them unless we raise ticket prices drastically. It's like, get out of here. Like, why do billionaires just think people are dumb? I guess it's usually the kids of billionaires, right? The actual billionaires maybe have a little bit of common sense. The kids just think everybody's dumb, and
because they're so. I mean, I'm not trying to stereotype all millionaire sons, but he wants a revenue stream like Atlanta. Thank you, Michael. But still, I mean, nevertheless, he wants a revenue stream. That's great and all, but it just seems like they've been out of touch with reality because they haven't been around people that like common like folk. I guess I want to say like us middle class folk or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What do they say? He was born on third base and he thinks he hit a triple.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's I don't know. There probably aren't a lot of people who actually will stand up and tell billionaires like, no, you're being dumb and wrong, because they can just ruin your life if they want to, which is a bummer. But I mean, I don't care if the White Sox want to move to Nashville or whatever. I'm fine with it. They'll get another baseball team in Chicago. I just want expansion. We need some expansion teams now. It's been way too long. I want some more baseball teams in cool cities. Nashville would be one. I'm surprised they just wouldn't invade Charlotte and take over the AAA stadium. But anyway.
Yeah, I would think Charlotte would be the next destination.
Be a possibility.
I mean, yeah. It makes sense to me. I don't. The one thing about this whole thing.
And then,
go ahead, Uper.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a delay.
The Royals actually put out some new drawings today for a new stadium with the Royals. They're trying to get a whole business district in either downtown Kansas City or North Kansas City. So their rumblings all over MLB right now.
Yeah, they're trying to get in that whole cash game. And correct me if I'm wrong, Uper, but the Kansas City, the Royal Stadium is kind of in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? Kauffman Stadium currently.
The only, Kansas City is a fantastic baseball road trip, but the only thing being the fun nighttime aspect of being there is nowhere near the stadium. The stadium's kind of in the middle of a concrete desert, sharing a parking lot with Arrowhead Stadium. And so that's not convenient because if you could be in the downtown area, it's a very lively, fun downtown. And it would make a lot of sense to put that stadium there if they do build one.
Yeah, and Michael Reamer in YouTube I like his comment. Said in the future only rich people will be the ones afford to go to games, and at some point, I mean, as dire straits as that sounds, sometimes it feels like it's a case where make money all year round. Yeah, it's the new hotness, and it's
that's what is good about minor league baseball sometimes, right? Is that you can head up to Lansing or Toledo or Grand Rapids or Midland, and you can catch a decent quality baseball game with a lot more on-field entertainment for about $20.
Yeah,
but
I mean, going to Akron was. I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised with Akron, and it is one of those things where I came away with having a better experience with some of the food too. I didn't really get too into the food scene down there, but apparently they have a dog. They have They have a hot dog. Apparently, it's like a chili dog with Fruit Loops on it.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Yeah,
I know. Those are like those Instagram videos where people are making nonsense food just for clicks. We don't need Fruit Loops on our hot dogs. Come on.
I do like that guy. I think I've been seeing him on Twitter, and he's also on TikTok, where he there's people that are cooking food, right? And then sometimes like
he judges. He'll say if he'll eat it.
Sanitation, yeah. Like this woman was mixing pasta. All of a sudden, the dog starts licking her hands, and she's like puts it back in, and like, yeah. So,
well, I was trying to think. Was Akron the place that had the sauerkraut balls?
Yes.
Yeah. What is that all about? Sauerkraut ball?
Apparently, that's Akron in the early days was a very heavy Polish German community, and so that was a specialty in Akron, apparently. So,
I guess
that's the thing.
I don't know.
But Michael,
sauerkraut, you got to put it on something. But whatever.
Yeah. You put sauerkraut on corned beef or whatever. You can put it on anything. Michael makes a good point here. If other cities get this, it puts the ones without a disadvantage, especially if you're a small market, not shared revenue. No, it's a great point. And yeah, eventually I could see this happening in Detroit. Given you're right, Chris. This is just around the corner at some point. Yeah. You can see this happening.
I feel fairly comfortable with how enmeshed the entire Ilitch family is. How much of Detroit they own that they wouldn't threaten to move out of Detroit. But maybe they'd like move to, Southfield or something like something silly like that, moving to the suburbs, or I don't know. Maybe they will stick with Comerica for a long time, but it just feels like it's coming, right? Like they're going to start. We've heard things about how the stadium hasn't been kept up terribly well. See, concrete and rusty chairs and things like that. So maybe, I don't know. They just have done a bunch of updates, so we'll see. But I don't know. I'm picturing it coming 4 or 5 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, and we've heard too about how West Michigan is trying to build themselves up as a AAA town, and so South Bend. So the landscape is changing. I mean, in a few years, Grand Rapids will be the largest city in population wise. I mean, in terms of pure population size, bigger than Detroit. Metro Detroit's huge, but
yeah, the market size for Detroit is still pretty big. But it's amazing how small Detroit proper is in terms of population now.
Yeah,
it's like it used to be what, like 7th, 8th when I was younger. Back in the day, of course, it was like the 3rd or 4th biggest city in the country. But now it was like top 10 for most of my youth, and now it's 36th. They have like fewer people than Louisville. But I don't know. Those census workers. I think you're muted.
Yeah, your mic's muted.
I couldn't hear you. Nope. Still muted. Huh.
See here. All right. Well, while he gets that sorted out, we did get somebody who posted Max Clark's first hit, so I'm gonna put that on Lakeland. So I did find that.
Oh, nice. Somebody has it.
Yeah, somebody has it. Uber, Are you now available?
How's that?
There you go.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Kevin McGonigal got a couple hits, and and Max Clark had an RBI hit in like the 7th inning. So that was nice. Get those guys to get their feet wet in full season ball here at the end of the season. Kind of fun.
Do you guys see I mean, obviously, I think the Angels doing what they've been doing. There's a trend. These guys are coming a little bit faster, aren't they? There just seems like there's promotions across the minor leagues that are just a hair quicker than they used to be.
Yeah, well, so we saw last year the White Sox did that thing. They call it Project Birmingham or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they sent all their top prospects to Double-A, and it seems like that's what the Padres are doing this year. They sent Ethan Salas, who turned 17 this year, as a catcher. Yep. They sent him to Double-A. They sent Robbie Snelling to Double-A. They sent all the guys from Fort Wayne, Jacob Marcy, and all these other guys. So it does feel like their teams are challenging these guys. Some teams are challenging these guys quicker than others. And the old saying was always the good ones come quickly, right? They force their way into the upper levels, and Jackson Holliday's already in Double-A after 1 year after getting drafted. So it's I do think the teams are a little bit more aggressive now, and part of that may be just the realignment in the minor leagues where there just aren't as many roster spots. But
yeah, that's a good point.
But then everybody was talking about Nolan Shanuel getting super, like, oh, the Angels are crazy. I think he started his career with a 5 or 6 game hit streak, right, in the big leagues. It's like, all right, well, if these guys can hit, and that's actually an interesting. I heard the guys on the Baseball America talking about that. Like, is this what the Angels have done the last couple of years? Is take these guys who were crazy performers in smaller conferences, with Zagnetto at Campbell and Shanuel with Florida Atlantic, and they just shot them through the minors super quickly, and they both so far are holding their own in the big leagues. So we might see more of that now. It's possible. Like, they've already sent Dylan Cruz to Double-A and Paul Skeens to Double-A. I don't even know why Paul Skeens is pitching at all, but they sent him to Double-A. So it's happening quickly. And Roger's having a coughing fit, I think. Yeah, he's telling us to go. So I don't know if you guys we even talked about the Tigers yet.
No,
we just do a general baseball chat. Well, yeah. So I missed Thursday's show, so it's been a while since and Monday's show, right? Yeah,
I think so.
So
you're about a memory.
Tigers. I'm trying to. Yeah, I don't even remember what happened in the weekend, but they only won 1-3 against the lowly Cubs. And the Cubs actually have a top 10 offense, and that was basically what happened. That was kind of all those games were shootouts, and the Tigers bullpen just looked a little spent at times. They've done a lot of work, and there are a lot of good arms out there. But seemingly everybody has had 1 or 2 rough outings. Jason Foley hasn't been nearly as sharp as he was. Brisky had a rough outing or two. The only guy who doesn't ever seem to fail is Tyler Holton.
Yeah.
Which is wild, but I don't know. They're playing a lot of fun baseball now, even though they lost that series.
No question about it. The Cubs series was entertaining as hell. I mean, every game, was down to the wire, rallies by both teams. It was a good time. And I saw some people, kind of disparage the Cubs a little bit. That's a pretty good baseball team. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, if you're a Cubs fan, you got some things to look forward to there. And like you said, top 10 offense, got a couple guys in that bullpen come throwing, 97 to 100. Not bad. And, good chance that they can make the playoffs, and if they get in the playoffs, they might just have enough offense to win a series.
Yeah, the Marlins are only a game behind them right now in terms of the playoff picture. The Diamondbacks, Giants, they're all in that cluster right now with the Cubs and the Marlins just right there. So yeah, the Cubs are a good team, and they have Cody Bellinger. They have some pretty good offensive pieces. James Candelario. There was a debate whether or not the Tigers should have re-signed him or not, and again, based on he was a guy that seemed like he needed it. Like, as much as I would sit there and try to go and play money, like I told you so, and I'm not going to do that because it's pointless. At the same time, I agreed why he should have been gone elsewhere. He needed a change of scenery. It was really apparent to me that he needed a different type of environment for him, and it's worked out. He's gone back to now he's back with the Cubs, and it's worked out for him. The place he got all started. So, and the wild card right now looks like this. In the NL, Philly, the Cubs, and Cincinnati. And then right there's Arizona, San Francisco, Miami, and San Diego, who is under 500. But again, what's mind-boggling is the Reds minus 17 run differential and the Marlins minus 45, and the Diamondbacks are minus 8. But still, Arizona with that bad month are still in playoff contention. They had a really bad July, and they're hanging around. So
yeah, it's I don't know, like you mentioned. So it's kind of funny. You watch the Cubs. I do think the pitching's a little bit light overall. Jameson Taillon was murdering the Tigers for a while, but then you got to turn back into a pumpkin there in the 5th or 6th inning. It was. Yeah, then they have Mark Leiter Jr. was closing that one game. Like, what's this? But they did have that. They had Alzolay come in and close, I think, the final game of the series. And they did have that other guy whose name is escaping me now, but he's
Merriweather.
Well, Merriweather looked really good, but there was another guy, like you said, who was throwing 97, 98, 99. I'm trying to. His name is escaping me, but yeah, there's some talent there. So, and then of course it was the real bummer was that first game with the umpire making 3 kind of really poorly timed bad calls that people were, we go to the umpire scorecards, right? And it was one of the 10 most lopsided run changing. According to them, it was the 9th worst game, of the season based on
in terms of swinging them runs to one team. Yeah, I looked over that pretty hard. It was interesting. He didn't call a bad game in total in terms of accuracy. He was fine. But yes, in the end of the game, it seemed like he expanded his zone late, which is a terrible thing to do to teams, to batters especially. And all 3 of those calls came in really high leverage spots, and all of them went against the Tigers. It was really, I don't think he was out to screw the Tigers. I don't think he had money on the Cubs, but it just went about as poorly for Detroit as it could there. And they were bad calls. I'm not defending the guy. I
think there was a strike that Brisky threw that was called a ball that would have been a strikeout, I think, and ended up. And then there was the strike 3 call to Parker Meadows that was 3-4 inches outside of the zone, and then there was the strike 2 call, I think, to Riley Green that was a ball below the zone, and like that would have been a leadoff walk in the 9th, and it ended up being an out. And it's tough. You certainly know how hard it is to ump, and I think you tend to look at these things a little bit more objectively than a lot of fans who just think all umps are terrible. But sometimes they have really bad stretch, and that was a bummer.
Yeah, it's like he had a bad 20 minutes, and it just all went against the Tigers.
Yeah, the way you by the way,
Sean.
Sean is very adamant about that. By the way, thank you for the $5, Sean.
It was so
off the Frickers building.
In the Discord, I just said they were Assad, I think, was the guy pitching. The Mexican kid was pitching against him in game 1, and I just said it was an Assad state of affairs, whatever. Like, it was just a stupid pun, and can't get it out of his head apparently. Sorry.
Yeah, that was I'm catching up with that in there, but no. If Uper's saying that's bad calls, that's saying something. Uper will always 99.9% of the time stick up for umpires, and if Uper is saying that one time, that 1%, that tiny percentile that it's bad, then I'm gonna go, you know what? Okay, if you're saying it, then we'll.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
What before there was a strike box on the screen, right? What did we hope for? Everybody talked about, hey, be consistent, so that hitters can adjust to the strike zone. As long as they're consistent, they'll adjust. And what we saw in that game was he had one zone for 7 innings. And all of a sudden in the 8th, his zone changed. And that's, it can happen. I can see why it happens. Different pitchers come in. Maybe you've never seen them deliver a pitch, throws you off a little bit, whatever. But it just all happened to go against Detroit there pretty bad.
Yeah, and it really, I don't know. But you're right, though. Overall, all 3 games were very entertaining. And this is a team that you want to stick around and watch. I think it was Karsh or one of those 2. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm doing the 97 thing where they don't mention where their sources are from, but we do because, they'll say we've heard somewhere and they'll never mention a source. They'll conveniently forget the name or whatever. But the one time I did listen to 97.1, Karsh was saying that he's actually tuning in all the games, as you should, because you talk about sports all the time.
Comment on them,
yeah. I mean, you do comment a daily show 10 to 2 and you talk sports all the time, but what do I know?
There's no doubt about it, though. Like, the Tigers still aren't a very good team, But when they're scoring runs, baseball's a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah,
it just is. Yes. That's the early '90s Tigers, right, where they were just scoring dozens of runs a couple times a week, and it just the pitching wasn't there for them, and the Tigers aren't consistent enough to win enough right now. They've you can home runs left and right from Torkelson and Kerry Carpenter, and Boyd Torque is looking like the Torque that was promised. And Carpenter is like, oh man, like each time he hits a home run, we're like, is this feels real? This keeps getting realer. Now we did, Raj did do some research, and we looked up the most home runs through 115 career games for guys drafted in the 19th round or later. And so you see like Mike Piazza, okay, he's a Hall of Famer. Some other big names in there.
Yeah, let me pull up that.
Was it like Richie Sexton, Jason Bay, guys like this? But Carpenter's up there tied with Matt Noakes, who I know Tigers fans remember. But then you see that the top guy is Kevin Moss, who is the one I remember. He was one of the first like huge, like crazy breakout stars. It was like, oh man, this guy's a legend, and then it just completely disappeared. So there it is, yeah.
Yeah, so Kerry Carpenter is right up there with Matt Noakes. Kevin Moss, he was with Houston, right? Is that
the Yankees?
Yankees. Okay, Yankees. That's what it was. Okay, yeah, that's right.
I think he was a first baseman, maybe corner outfielder. Like Mattingly was hurt, and Kevin Moss came up and just went bonkers. And as you can see there, it ended like super abruptly. He didn't do much after that. 29 home runs in 115 games, and then 65 total, which is a bummer.
Yeah. By the way, I was thinking of Kevin Bass. That's what I was thinking of. The former Houston Astros outfielder.
Yes, Kevin Bass.
So, yeah,
Bass. Back in the day,
Bass.
Wow. Well, that's the thing. Do you remember? Did you ever get back at Baseball Card Monthly?
I did for a little while, and when I was younger, yes.
My brother and I used to do the vandalization of the cards, where you take things and like replace their head with like, so Kevin Bass would be like a fish, or my brother would put a speaker on his head and stuff like that. So I remember him distinctly because of that. We used to baseball card vandalize.
Yeah, as much as we thought our cards were sacred, so we never would do anything like that. But speaking of Kerry Carpenter, by the way,
good question, Nick. Sorry, Nick asked me a question. I'm going to do something real quick. He asked me.
You want to? Yeah, go ahead and do. I heard that during the audio.
I did a tweet about Spencer Torkelson has 50. Yeah, now has 51 barrels this year, which is like the third most, I think, by Tigers hitter, or maybe the fourth most by Tigers hitter since 2015 when they started counting those. But he's asking how many of those barrels were actually hits. So I'm off to the nerd cave to figure it out.
Okay. So I'll go into my inside number this week, and props to. So I did get a source for this inside. Well, I always get sources, but it was props to Evan from sportsbookscout.com, who was able to provide the data for me on this one, and that is the right now the 15 game rolling WAR for Kerry Carpenter, which is right around 1.5. So he started at, in terms of starting off his career, he's almost at it to, this is F WAR. I should explain that better. And so Kerry Carpenter's WAR, as far as like, here's at a 2 WAR. He is an average. He's now at a 2 WAR, even a Baseball Reference. So Kerry Carpenter, over his last 15 games, has really helped out his WAR quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so you can look at the call up of Parker Meadows as an indication of keeping Kerry Carpenter as kind of a more of a DH role. Excuse me. Keeping him where you can put Riley Green in right field, Parker Meadows in center, who made a really good play the other day where he just showed his impressive speed. And even that, I think it was a double, he turned into a triple or whatever.
Yeah.
Extra base hit. Yeah, that's the kind of presence that Meadows is going to be out there. But Kerry Carpenter, 2 WAR player, and he's done that in 285 at bats this season. And I mean, considering he was injured too, Uper, it's becoming more not just a facade. This is not a was it Brendan Bosch?
Brendan Bosch, sure. Well, we've had a lot of them like that. You know, the other day I compared it to, and I'm feeling him more and more. And this has nothing to do statistically. I mean, they bat different. I mean, Kerry's a lefty. JD Martinez was a righty, but just the sense. forget the numbers. I remember when JD came on the scene and he just kept producing and he kept wondering, well, okay, he was kind of a ho-hum guy in Houston, right? But he kept hitting and he just kept hitting and he came back the next year and he hit some more. And then we found out, you know, he went to see somebody and he changed his approach and he made significant changes. And now we see Carpenter came up last year, produced. This year has produced, and now he's starting to really produce. I mean, he's become a force. And now we see the article where he went to somebody and made some changes and didn't accept who he was and looked to become better. So I'm just getting the same vibes from him. I hope it stays that way. Obviously, we all do. But I think I'm torn if he should be a DH or if they just need to carve out a spot in the outfield and just make him get better.
And look, Cooper, there was a throw last week he made, or the week before, where he gunned down somebody a second. Carpenter's improved. It was against Minnesota. He's improved defensively. I mean, I think he's holding his own right field. He's not going to embarrass you. It's not like it's like the same thing with like kind of Justice Bigby, where you can make the comparisons right there. Well, don't make me laugh too hard, Chris.
Sorry,
no, it's all right. But go ahead. As you were saying.
I like that comparison. I mean, you know, it's tough because JD Martinez turned out to be so damn good for so long. But it definitely, I remember my pen tweet for a reason, right? I didn't think JD Martinez was going to play in the big leagues for very long, and then he just kept hitting home runs and kept hitting home runs. And there's also kind of that flair for the dramatic that like Kerry Carpenter. Again, it reminds me of the early 90s. It's like, oh, man, they're men on base. Kerry Carpenter is up. He's going to do something good. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't do it every time. But, boy, he's done it a lot.
Yeah.
You know bases loaded, nobody. Yeah. Bases loaded, nobody out. Green and Torkelson don't get the job done. And then Carpenter does. And it's like, well, you know what? That's why you want as many good young players as possible, right? Because you need guys who can pick each other up. So,
well, right. Thank you for the $15 for the cost suppressant. I appreciate that.
Off the Frickers building.
And
exquisite.
So yeah, for the Roger Cough Medicine Fund. Oh, I'm just grab a cough right now like it's crazy. I mean,
are you a Diamond Tap guy or a Robitussin guy?
You know what?
Mucinex.
I just took some Mucinex earlier. No, I grew up Diamond Tap was because we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and for whatever reason we got the generic version of Diamond Tap. And that tasted like straight up Kool-Aid drink without it tasted like not Kool-Aid itself, rather grape drink. You know those little hug barrels, those jug barrels you used to get as a kid? And for lunches, I got those. And Diamond Tap tasted like that, but watered down. Somehow, some way it tasted worse. But those barrels were awesome. And the blueberry one was my favorite one. Anyway.
Honest to God, my dad, if you had a bad enough cough, he'd toss you the Vicks and tell you to swallow a big gob of it.
Oh,
the vapor rub?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's amazing I'm alive. Maybe it could be it could describe why I have maybe some brain damage. Who knows?
Let me see. I do like a vapor rub, but
swallow it down, baby.
I'm looking up eating
vapor
rub.
Look that up. All right. Well, what is your inside number? Outside
deadly
of
poisoning in toddlers.
What does it say? Brain cells killed by Vicks? Is that your inside number?
Well, here's the thing. All year long, and even go back to last year, occasionally we hear about Torkelson, how hard he's hitting the ball, and something good's going to happen. We never get a lot of numbers put to it. Jay Jaffe was at Fangraphs. I don't know if you saw the article. Pretty good article on him. Mm-hmm. Talking about how he's pulling the ball more. I did not realize he only pulled the ball 21 times last year in the air. That was shocking to me. Oh. I never would have guessed that. He's already over 50 this season. So he's probably going to end up near 70. I mean, close anyway. So he's made a huge change there. But I was struck by the numbers, the barrel rate. Last year, he was in the 56th percentile on barrel rate. He's up to the 91st percentile now. Hard hit rate, he was 61st percentile. Now he's 95th percentile. Exit velo, he went from 78th to 93rd. So, the numbers bear it out. It's just not a feeling that we all get. Oh, he hit another one, 108 and got an out. It's happening. And it's just so nice to see some of the production follow now, where we don't have to hear the chronic bust complainers, oh, so what if you hit it hard? Well, okay, there's something to it.
Yeah, and at the very least, I think even if he, goes ice cold again or whatever, we get the sense that, okay, this is going to be a player who at times will be able to carry the team. Even though I think I've seen, I want to say Robert James actually had a really interesting stat that Torque is like 0 for 13 with runners in scoring position this month, despite all the home runs. He's not getting them with men on, but that's maybe he's trying too hard, maybe it's just bad luck or whatever. But yeah, like, I don't think we have to worry about him being an epic bust anymore. He might not ever be the MVP, like all-star even, but
you might be Rhys Hoskins.
He might be Rhys Hoskins. Although, yeah, as you point out, you asked, how many barrels does Rhys Hoskins have? And Hoskins has never had 50 in a season. So Torque, and really, like, I don't think Hoskins has ever hit 30 home runs in a year. He might have once. So it feels like Torque is getting to that point where, like, he could be a 35 plus home run guy. So really nice development there. And
yeah,
I read that article. That was a good article.
Yeah. Nobody else comes out of the woodwork like Sean and say, remember when Chris said he was a bust? Again, there's so many times where people
just got a tornado warning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, I slept awful last night. It was some of the thunderstorms. My entire room lit up. It was insane, and it was just, yeah. I mean, I think the reason why I only slept what I could was because I was sick. Other than that, I woke up a couple times like, oh, it's thunder, it's really loud. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but whenever we have a big storm like that, we end up the next morning, I find crayfish in our pool.
Wow.
And depending on how big the storm is, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3. Today was a 2 crayfish day. It was a cray storm.
Cray.
Yeah. So apparently there's another big one today. So yeah, that thing just said, hey, take shelter, tornado. So if you see me get sucked away into the nerd cave again, it might be, not on purpose. But
well, it was bad enough today apparently that they canceled softball 6 hours at a time, and then by the time game time started at 6:30, it was sunny. I mean, that's something I didn't understand. It's like, why are we doing the snow winter thing where we're going to cancel things ahead of time before it actually effing happens? God.
Well,
come on.
I mean, they got to warn people. You can't be out there and then get struck by lightning. And they didn't tell you, and then they used to.
An ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure, Raj.
Oh, there you go. Noah Conley just got back from his little brother's high school football game. I know that Brighton and Saline were playing tonight out here. I guess you have to drink twice now that I mentioned 2 cities.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's part of the Sean drinking game. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because high school football kicks off officially off the slate, and they've got some games starting tomorrow this weekend, or starting on Friday, rather. I mean, my brother who's a school teacher is already in session this week, so it's already in that time of year. And Max Clark, by the way, we just retweeted on our Tiger Mountain Report account, and I'll post it in for everybody watching us on YouTube right now. So I'll do that. And so, Chris, do you have your inside number for the week?
I do, and I have the bonus one because the question was, how well is Torkelson hitting on those barrels? He's got 2 singles, 14 doubles, 21 home runs, and 14 outs. That's a 725 batting average and a 2,235 slug.
Wow.
On the barrels. Pretty good. But I do think that's actually below average in terms of batting average on barrels. I think the average is like 800. But so right along the lines of what we've been talking about, my inside number is 32. 32 is the number of home runs the Tigers have hit in August in 21 games. So it's a little bit more than 1.5 per game. They've got 7 games left. If they stay on this pace, they will end up with 42, 43 home runs. And I was looking it up, and they have not hit 40 home runs in a single month since 2008. September of 2008 was the last time the Tigers as a team hit 40 home runs. And you have to go back to 2000, June of 2000, in Comerica National Park to find them hitting more than 42, 43. They hit 44 that month.
Wow.
So, yeah, like I said, this is a lot of fun because we haven't seen this in 15 years. So, yeah, enjoy it, and hopefully they keep hitting those dingers.
Yeah, remember this is a team last year that we were looking at. It was historically bad in terms of offense. Historically bad. Could not hit the home run at all. Meanwhile, Cleveland, who signed Eric Haas, and immediately put him. I think he immediately started in the starting lineup too, I believe, as well.
And batted fifth.
Yeah, they are among one of the league worst in home runs as a team. This is a team that went out and signed Bell. I thought it would work out, and it did not. So, but yeah, it's astonishing to see the Tigers in terms of even get this kind of offense. So, ELB, new person, thank you for the $9.99.
Yeah.
Off the Frickers building.
Exquisite.
Much appreciated for that.
Andy Ibanez with those 2 homers the other night. That was out of left field for everybody.
Yeah, I like your comment, Uper. He's sensing the DFA season. He's like, nah, not today, Satan. Not
And
today.
that was what's funny, because it was like a classic, like, AJ Hinch, what are you doing? He batted him second in that game, right? And then he goes and hits 2 dongs off, smiling like, oh, all right, good for you. So, yeah, lots of it. Like, so I think Carpenter has 9 home runs this month. Torkelson has 8, and then it's like Badu has 3, Green has 3, Rogers has 3. Like they're getting it's the 2 big guys, but they're getting them from everywhere. So even Eric Haas had 1. He did in Boston. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's they got Houston up next. Houston is still a damn good team. They're not nearly as good as they were last year, it doesn't seem like, and their pitching has been kind of falling apart a little bit. They got beat 17-1 today, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Framber Valdez, he had that no-hitter, but I think other than that, he's actually been pretty hittable lately. So I think the Tigers might be able to steal that game tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think there's a good possibility too. And Verlander's coming to the start on Sunday, and of course there's going to be the big crowd on hand for that. So, but yeah, I think even Saturday against Brown, they have a good against your cousin from another mother, Chris.
Well, he's been struggling too. So
Yeah.
it's they're a beatable team. I mean, so are the Cubs, and the Tigers are now, below average, and so you can't afford to make many mistakes, and you can't not capitalize when you have opportunities, and they're still doing that a bit too much. But they should hopefully be entertaining games again.
Yeah, and they're crushing mistakes. That's something that this team wasn't doing last year. All right, let's go into the good, the bad, the ugly. All right, Uper, what is your good, the bad, the ugly this week?
Okay, my good. On a personal note, tomorrow night, the big night, Savannah Bananas are in Des Moines. And the family, we're all going. It should be a good time. It's been about 100 degrees here the last 3 days. Luckily, tomorrow it's going to go all the way down to 90. But I think it's still that's going to be just cool enough where it'll be tolerable. I'm excited. I'm sure there's a lot of goofiness. There'll probably be a few things where you roll your eyes at, but there should be a few good laughs too. But the cool thing is, that's why this is fun. My wife and daughter are excited to see it. They've seen a lot of the videos over the years, or the last couple of years. So I'm excited to go see the Bananas. And my wife loves it because they end the game at 2 hours. I guess they hit 2 hours, they're done. So that it's nice and compact, and it should be a good time. I look forward to reporting on that. My son's got all packed up to go. We have the wheelchair area reserved, so we should be good. My bad, of course. Hey, let's face it. It's a lousy day for baseball to hear Shohei Ohtani goes down. The guy's had some, obviously the success has been amazing. Everybody in the world has had the wonderful things to say about him. We don't need to add to that. It's just amazing how bad timing he's had. When he came over here, he kind of didn't go through the normal process and stay there the whole time. So he had to sign for a lot less money than he was really worth. So that was unfortunate. Not that anybody's going to feel sorry for Shohei Ohtani, right? I'm sure he's making tons of cash in many different ways. But now, he was on the verge of a record-setting contract almost without question. Now there's a really good. What is he worth? What are people going to throw at him? Again, he's going to make some real money. I just don't think it's going to be as historic. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly how high teams are going to want to go if this UCL is torn. I know he's getting a second opinion, but it sounds like he's going to be not pitching for quite a while. I don't know if you guys have heard it. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wondered if you had heard anything else today about that.
No, outside of that, it was funny. Somebody did a meme where show Eli De La Cruz poking him and saying this is when the injury occurred.
Oh,
that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I thought that added some humor to that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So
I'm sorry. You're ugly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I went the good, the bad. I'm going with just out of the good, the bad, and the out of left field here. I'm stepping out of baseball, going to the world of golf, and then to really get obscure, I'm going to the world of senior women's golf. Now, if you go back, you have to be probably my age to remember Joanne Carner, Big Mama. Okay, she had the raspy voice, sounded like she knew her way around a couple packs of Pall Malls on the course. If you would have asked me this morning, I would have said it's 50-50 that she's dead. Okay, I didn't know she was still living. She's a 2-time U.S. Open champion, 5-time U.S. Women's Amateur champion back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The woman's 84 years old. They gave her a spot in the U.S. Senior Open today. 84 years old. She shot 80. She broke her age on a U.S. Open course.
Nice.
Granted, senior women's, but still, I'm sure it's not an easy course. Shot 80 at the age of 84 and at a major championship setup. Hats off to her. That's really an amazing accomplishment, in my opinion. Yeah,
that was priceless. Deadly Ninja Bees has probably the best time one-liners of any of our YouTube regulars.
No,
that was good.
I remember Nancy Lopez being married to Ray Knight. That
was Chris. I swear to God, that's the same thing I was thinking. That's the only LPGA golf person I can remember off the top of my head.
But you know what?
Turner.
And wasn't there a Swedish woman too?
Annika Sorenstam.
Well, Annika Sorenstam was good.
Yeah.
But of course, like there's the Babe Dietrichson, right? Babe.
Oh yeah,
Zaharias. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like I used to watch ESPN every night for sports because that was where you got your sports, and you'd see women's golf highlights occasionally. And so I knew some of the names, but yeah, it was really Nancy Lopez and Ray Knight.
Yeah,
definitely.
Joanne Carner would have been pre-ESPN even.
Yeah,
this is back
when
there
she's
was
84.
Like 7 channels.
Yeah. This is her. I mean, definitely
exquisite.
It's golf.
Yeah.
So Dottie Pepper. That's right.
Dottie Pepper. Michelle Wee, remember that she came up and she was going to golf against the men, and she did, but she was never any good at anything.
No,
but she was good. She was fine, but she wasn't like the Tiger Woods that she was promised to be.
By the way, I would never. I'm terrible at golf. That's. But Sean with the comment, Annika Sorenstam, Dottie Pepper could beat you senseless behind a Waffle House. I'm sure they could.
Oh, Dottie Pepper, no doubt about it.
Oh, doubt about it. All right, Chris, what is your good and bad, the ugly?
So my good, and I mentioned this to you guys the other day, was Cole Reagans. And draft nerds might remember him as Texas's first rounder way back in 2016. He went 30th overall. It's the same year that the Tigers drafted Matt Manning. He's a left-handed pitcher out of Florida, Tallahassee, like a high school. And you go back and look at the old scouting reports back then, and MLB Pipeline was comparing him to Cole Hamels, because that's what they do. They compare these guys to multiple-time All-Stars, and it's not fair. But so he got off to a decent start in 2018, but then blew his arm out, and then it happened again. He was coming back, and it blew out again in 2019, and then 2020 was COVID. So he missed 3 consecutive years. And he came back actually pretty solid in 2021, but it mostly slipped off all prospect radars because you missed 3 years and people just forget about you basically. And he pitched well enough last year to get up to the bigs with the Rangers. Had 40 innings and a fastball that set at 92 miles an hour, 4.95 ERA. Nothing special. He was back in the bigs this year. I think Rangers moved into the bullpen and his ERA was close to 6. And then they traded him to Kansas City in the Aroldis Chapman deal. It was Cole Reagans and a kid in the Dominican Summer League. And the Royals had Reagans down pitching in Omaha a little bit. And then they brought him up. And in August, he's just been absolutely bonkers. His fastball is now averaging 97 miles an hour. He hit 101 in his start yesterday, or was it yesterday, 2 days ago? It's 6 innings, 2 hits, 11 strikeouts. I have it here. His fastball averaged 97.9 with a spin rate of 25.50. So it's got a ton of spin, a ton of velo. It's a lefty, and like I said, it touched 101 flat. That is the second hardest pitch thrown by a left-handed starting pitcher since 2015. Only James Paxton. He threw one at 101.2 once. That's it.
Wow.
And so I'm going to look at his numbers real quick. I had them written down. So I think there might be a little bit wrong, but 29 2/3 innings, 2.12 ERA, 8 walks, and 44 strikeouts in 30 innings. And the Royals just kind of like stumbled into him, right? Like I don't think that the Rangers would have given up on him if he was pitching like this. And suddenly, like I said, he's out there, with an upper 90s fastball, elite performance. He's basically looking like the guy I think that they hoped Asa Lasa would be. And so, yeah, like it's only been 5 starts. You always worry when guys have huge velocity spikes. Maybe he's due for a third Tommy John. But the Royals might have fallen into a front of the rotation starter here. So that's pretty cool for them and him. A nice story of perseverance there.
They needed luck. They needed some luck. They finally got some luck on that too.
Yeah, like again, like this was a guy. He was just kind of off the prospect radar. He struck out 6 per 9 for the Rangers last year, and it's like 12 per 9 now, and he's throwing 100. It's nuts. My bad is getting old. In general, it's a shame. Every day we're reminded of the grim specter of death. You mentioned Ohtani, but the other 2 annoying injuries. The story. Steven Strasburg retired today, or said he was officially going to retire today, and it sounds like he has permanent nerve damage to the point where like he's uncomfortable in daily life. And that just sucks. He's 35, and it's like I remember him as a prospect, right? Like he was the biggest pitching prospect ever, and he had the best debut ever, and he never quite fulfilled the lofty expectations for him, but he had a damn fine career, was World Series MVP, made a lot of money, but it just sucks to know that, because you don't think about that in baseball very often, right? Guys just have like permanent injuries that they can't function in daily life, and that sucks. And then the other bad one was Mike Trout. Mike Trout was gone for 7 weeks, came back for 1 game and got hurt again and went back on the injured list. And you look at Mike Trout, he hasn't played more than 119 games in a season since 2019. He hasn't topped 140 since 2016. There is a chance that Mookie Betts might end up overtaking Trout as the best player of this generation just by staying healthy, because it just doesn't look like Mike Trout's ever going to be healthy again, unfortunately.
He's kind of at that point where Miguel Cabrera, once he was the Iron Man for many, many years, and once the injury started, they never stopped.
Yeah.
That's hopefully Trout's not hitting that, but he could be. And we're every year now we get 1 year closer to Mike Trout never having a postseason impact on the game that we'll remember, which is a shame for someone who was as multi-talented as he is.
And one of the strange things too, I can't help but notice is like center fielders like Grady Sizemore. We talked about him last week, and then look at Brian Buxton. I mean, Minnesota still has to manage his routine, his load management or his playing time essentially, and that's a guy you want out there as much as possible.
Sure.
And I often think that if Brian Buxton was healthy, that I think he would have been an MVP already.
Yeah, it's a definitely a fair thing to wonder. No question. He had the ability, all around ability. He easily could have been a guy who was putting up 30 years all the time, stolen bases, home runs, but just we were robbed of that by some fragilities.
Jacob Ellsbury is another one. That's a good one too. Dylan Ninjabees is absolutely correct. That's why Riley Green's in right field. And when we're down at Comerica and I got to speak to Scott Harris when the press or media was there, and that's what he said. Kind of Riley Green self-preservation society. It really is, and it really really sucks about Strasburg because I also liked him too because the way he gave a tribute to Tony Gwynn, his coach. at San Diego State, and it is unfortunate. Like him and Kerry Wood are kind of, to me, kind of remind me of that, like that shooting star that went really rapid, and it just kind of. Kerry Wood became somewhat of a decent reliever, but still, just it's unfortunate.
Oh, I just remember I was a big Strasburg fan leading up to that draft, staying up on Friday night. It was before everything was streamed. You couldn't, basically you just saw the box score get updated on the college website every inning and see it was only a matter, did he strike out 2 or 3 that inning? He was just putting up video game numbers, and it was so exciting. And then he rockets through the national farm system and comes up, and what did he strike out? 12 or 14 his first game against the Pirates, and it was just so fun to watch. But it just wasn't destined to be. I mean, and he's had enough arm problems where to hear this thing about his nerve problems affecting him daily, it's not shocking, to be honest, because it hurts so much.
Kind of reminds me when you hear about Antoine Randall L., the former Steelers receiver. I think he's coaching with the Lions now, I believe. And he has a hard time getting up every day. And as his hands are kind of permanently, you see some of those wide receivers like Terry Holt, former Rams receiver, where you see their fingers and they're just like permanently like this. And and Randall L. was actually a pretty good baseball player before he chose football at Indiana. And he says he wished he would have played baseball. So it's the nature of the business. So my good this week, and we've talked about this, about how every player on the team cannot be an all-star. Okay, we know that there's guys out there that, for everybody on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, for every time they complain about why is Zach Short in the lineup. One of the reasons why it's good. And we've been highlighting the Kerry Carpenters and Spencer Horkelson and Riley Greens, and rightfully so. Zach Short is known for more of his glove, not his bat. But an interesting stat I came across with runners and this is like props to Jerry on this too. With runners in the scoring position, he is batting 327, 414, 551 with an OPS of 965. So that's good. I mean, it's probably one of perhaps only in terms of one of the few good things you could say about Zach Short. There's Chris. Maybe. I think Chris has been hit by the tornado already.
It could be.
All right. Well, until I'll get us all situated. My bad is Angel Hernandez, and again, I feel like he's under fire for, guess what? Bad calls. Shocker. And his pitching chart, this was his pitching chart against the Giants, with Braves and Giants. And it was one of those things where, again, I don't know what Angel Hernandez, I'd like to talk to him just for like 5 minutes to understand his logic behind anything he does. Cause I just don't, it was one of those things where he continues. This was on Sunday, by the way, and I'm pulling it up right now. Because it is how they say it was the Hernandez special. As pitching ninja, he's truly so if anybody's watching us on YouTube right now, well, I'm pulling it up right now, and this was Sunday against the Braves and Giants.
So that's a solid 4 inches off the plate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really? Yeah,
there's a bender coming here that's really bad.
Yeah, I think this is there's the other one. I'll have to pull that up here in a second. But yeah, that was just terrible. That was just absolutely, positively terrible. And I'm gonna pull up the other one. But yeah, I think this is the other one. I was looking at the show prep on the fly here, but I've been having a problem with trying to pull things up here. Okay, so all right, so Chris, are you there? I think he might be having tornado issues. All right.
Hey,
sorry about that, folks. All right, there you go. All right, so here's the Osuna call right here. This is I think this is this the one you're referring to? Uper? It's okay.
Power keeps going out. I don't know how I sound or I'm looking, but if you can hear.
What the hell was that? Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. That was a crap call. That was, again, Angel. I what?
That one doesn't offend me as much as the ones from Max Fried. I mean,
Yeah,
it was low.
It seems like it.
Chris, are you there? Or are you just frozen and we can hear you?
This is like an Apollo 13 where they're waiting to see if the heat shield worked.
Yeah, we'll have to get back to him.
They're calling out for
Yeah, we're having a little bit of show difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. And my ugly are the New York Yankees, because the Yankees are in a free for all. They just won yesterday, 9-1, but prior to that they had lost. Was it 10 in a row? I believe it was. I'm sorry, 9 in a row.
9 in a row, yeah.
9 in a row, and they won yesterday 9-1 against Washington. So the Nationals came in right at the perfect time, and it's a joke, and to the point where I think even Sterling and his counterpart Susie was quoted off mic saying this team's boring to watch, and they are. I mean, offensively speaking, you go down to Atlanta and you get smoked. I mean, absolutely. I mean, just smoked. 11-3, 5-0, 2-0. That is boring baseball. Imagine being a broadcaster of watching the Braves, who are the best team in all of baseball, just kick your ass thoroughly.
Yep, just dismantle them.
Meanwhile, at the same time, I'm smiling. You know why I'm smiling, Uper? Because Yankee fans are getting more. Like, Yankee fans are. You think Tiger fans? People always look. I love Tiger fans. They listen to our podcast. We appreciate that. I think all fans are obnoxious, but Yankee fans take it to the next level. They are expected to go to the World Series every single year. They're supposed to go 162-0. Every loss is micromanaged to the point of, at least I think so. I mean, I could be wrong about that. I mean,
well, it's going to be real interesting to see, how much Teflon does Brian Cashman have? Does he stay? And then what is Boone's Aaron Boone going to do? You know, are they going to stick with him, or are they going to cut bait and try to put some of the blame on him and bring in a new guy? So a lot of things will be happening in the Bronx.
I think if somehow Brian Cashman survives this, then Aaron Boone's going to be the fall guy, because he's going to sit there and say, the way Cashman's basically is saying, hey, we're fine. And I don't understand that logic. And the Yankees are not going to, I don't think, it's not going to be the Yankees of old where you always expect them to outspend everybody. It's not the case. It's the same thing. Hal Steinbrenner is not George. And so they got their stadium, they got their new luxury things, and the Yankee fans are not happy about the way it shaped out, to the point where I think you can't even get ice cream in certain areas down there at Yankee Stadium or something.
Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's
they are a long way. I mean, when you see what Baltimore has cooking in that and you look at the Rays, even with this Franco mess, they're not going anywhere. They have the depth to make it work. Toronto, who has enough offensive firepower to stick with the Yankees. I don't think there's any quick fix coming for New York.
And by the way, that the Rays were going to be my god-awful, ugly, god-awful. Just, they've removed the likeness of Franco from everywhere. They're starting to kind of push him off. Yeah, I think it's over for Franco, quite frankly.
Yeah, he's gonna be over in the KBO or something.
I'm back, by the way. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Our power went out about 8 times. I could hear and see you guys from my phone, but for whatever reason, I guess you couldn't hear me. Has anybody seen any more of the details of what he's accused of? It just kind of like, I've heard whispers, but I haven't seen any details whatsoever. And I'm like, geez, what's going on?
In terms of like just
that
was
flickering.
Yeah. yeah, I don't know if you guys haven't heard it, then yeah, I assume it'll all come out soon. But
the latest was Tuesday, which is just that he's been on administrative leave, and that pretty much how long it's going to be on for, and that's really about it.
Well, there's going to be no easy way back from this. I mean, there's just no easy way, if any. Especially, obviously, his only the best thing in the world could be is if this is a Duke lacrosse thing and it's a hoax, then okay, and he's going to be okay. But boy, if it comes down to anything else, I don't see how they put him on the field.
Yeah, and I think to Roger's point that what Tampa is doing is basically erasing his likeness from the franchise, which means we assume Tampa knows a lot more than the public does.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, they're kind of, they've given him the Apollo, hook off the stage.
He's got the Heisman.
Yeah,
and it's obviously like this goes beyond baseball. This is these are real human issues, but it is a giant bummer for baseball because this was one of your top exciting young players, and it's just like, well, that's it. But if he's guilty, screw him, right? Like,
yeah,
you can't be doing this sort of stuff. So enjoy your time in a Dominican jail. I don't know, maybe not. But
I did want to recap real quick because you weren't on yet, but I wanted to talk about again for those who missed it. The days of Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams sitting comfortably somewhere are gone. They've been terminated, and that kind of also goes along with Jerry Reinsdorf potentially moving the team to Nashville or selling his share of the White Sox. But Chris, I just want the reason why this was important for you to have this on or to talk to you about this is because, again, I wanted to have one of our White Sox blog people, but unfortunately they've been really Sam with things. But let's just laugh at the Chicago White Sox for a moment and have a good laugh about it. You know why I want to have a good laugh about this, guys? Because Kenny Williams tried to go up and you can only kiss Jerry Reinsdorf's ass for so long,
oddly enough, the White Sox were my ugly. My power, I disappeared right before I got to do my ugly, and it was the White Sox.
My apologies.
No, it works out perfectly. But yeah, they and we've talked about this a bunch over the years, but like just talk about wasting a bunch of talent, right? Like it's going back to Chris Sale, Jose Quintana era White Sox, where they traded all of those guys to get all these prospects, and they brought
Chicago sucks.
Exactly. Yeah, a disaster. And I was looking. So Rick Hahn was hired as their GM after the 2012 season. So 11 seasons basically he had. The White Sox record in that time was the fourth worst in baseball for 11 years. An 11-year run of they're like 6 games better than the Tigers, who have largely been garbage since 2017, right? Like the White Sox had a couple playoff appearances, but early, ousted very quickly. Yeah, and it's. I mean, I guess you could say that firing them is the first step out of this, right? But it's still, you have Reinsdorf. There were the quick rumors that Tony La Russa was going to be there consulting on who they hire. It was like, geez, but then I think those were quashed. But still, it wouldn't shock anybody if he is involved because Reinsdorf.
So. Well, I got some actual audio from Tony La Russa when he was talking about getting his intel or his imprint on the next hire.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
I guess there's rumors that Chris Getz, right, might be in line.
Yeah.
That he's just going to stay in house anyway. So I don't know. I know a lot of White Sox people that I read are not excited about that whatsoever.
Well, he was their scouting director, right?
Yeah.
Former player from Michigan, I believe.
Yep.
Right.
But yeah, that would feel like a little bit like I think somebody joked about like firing Al Avila and then hiring Dave Littlefield. Like, well, yeah, that's kind of. Who knows? Maybe Chris turns things around, but it's not like I don't view the White Sox as some sort of outstanding player development, prospect acquiring franchise under Getz. They've had fine. Their drafts have been fine. I don't think there's anything crazy good about them, but yeah, that's again, if you fans, you're prone to the whims of billionaires, and unfortunately, White Sox have to deal with their unique one for a little while longer.
Yeah, and this is a team that, I mean, in terms of like from the front office standpoint, really, I mean, Kenny Williams is going. This is, I mean, Kenny Williams has been with the organization now, I think, since I want to say since the late '90s. I mean, this is they had Ron Schuler, who was the GM for quite a long time, and then I think it was 2001. He got promoted in 2001. It was his first full season. So this is a team that really doesn't make a lot of wholesale changes as far as personnel goes. Because if you look at the White Sox for a moment, here's the thing. So they had until, I mean, in terms of chaos, it was in terms of a little chaotic in the mid '80s when Dabrowski was a GM, and then they hired, for whatever reason, Ken Harrelson, the Hawk, and then he was gone after a season, and they just went through, and then after that it was like Larry Himes for a little while, but they've always been kind of the same, you know, Jeff Holberg, Gene Lamont, I mean, Jerry Mangle. They're very a team that you can, very few personnel changes.
Yeah. Go ahead, you.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, I just think back to, it seemed like the first time they really sold off parts, they did it just at the right time, right? They moved Chris Sale and Adam LaRoche and a few others while they had years left on the contracts. They got what looked like good returns back. It seemed like that was, if you were going to put a blueprint on a teardown and rebuild, they had it going. They did it they pulled the trigger at the right time when the players had value, and somehow the pieces just never fit, whether that's poor front office work or if it's just bad luck that players didn't develop into what they thought. It's hard to say.
Well, and they were actually one of the first teams that I can recall that would sign players out of their arbitration years. They ended up with a lot of really team-friendly contracts, sort of what the Braves have mastered. And that worked out well for them, right? Like, that was part of the reason that Quintana and Sale had such good trade value, is they were really underpaid for how well they were performing. But even with them, yeah, they got the good returns and still couldn't do anything with it. It was just a terribly built team.
Yep.
You know, they've had star power. You had Jose Abreu, you had Tim Anderson, you had Moncada, all these guys, but they're just not complementary parts whatsoever. Off into the sunset for you too.
Rasputin is dead.
Yeah, it is. Rasputin's dead. By the way, speaking of who had a really good start tonight, is Jackson Jobe. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, and 6 strikeouts against Peoria.
Does that get an exquisite?
That definitely gets 100%. That gets I have to find that one. It's not a.
It was.
I had my Chicago drops going. I didn't have that.
It was scoreless into the 6th. I think it's the first time he's ever completed 6 innings. Maybe the second.
Exquisite.
But yeah, it was 5 scoreless, and then there was an error to start the 6th inning, and then he gave up a 2-run homer. But then he got the next 3 outs, and that was it for him. But it's. I don't know if we've talked about him a bunch, but like, he moved up a lot on the national midseason top 100 prospect list. So he was off some of them, and I listened to some podcasts, and they were consistently getting feedback to push him up because of how good his stuff looks. And so again, he's had some problems with home runs, same issues he had last year. There's still a little bit of, we see it with Cutter Montero at AAA too. There's just, you've got this great stuff, but it doesn't really matter if you accidentally leave it over the heart of the plate. Yeah. So it's still just a matter of kind of refining that command some more.
And again, I think one of the things too that we be on the lookout for is that maybe he might get a chance to go to Erie. Maybe because if he's out there, we'll be there before the playoffs. Trust us on that. But I mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
It's definitely it's certainly possible. It was fun right now because although the Whitecaps lost in the 9th inning, they're in the playoff hunt. Lakeland's in the playoff hunt. Erie's in the playoffs already, and also, you know, winning their division in the second half too. So if they want him pitching meaningful, you know, postseason games or chase games. They've got some options there, and yeah, it wouldn't be a huge shock if he gets bumped up to Erie. It also wouldn't be a huge shock if he stays in West Michigan and then goes to the Arizona Fall League to pitch a little.
And here's an idea too. Here's why Justice Bigby is not in Toledo. Erie's in the playoffs. Toledo's not. Simple as that. Like he's 24 years old. He shouldn't be Toledo. Okay, I understand the logic, and normally probably be the case, but he is the straw that stirs the drink for Erie, and he doesn't need to go to Toledo. I'm sorry. He can start the season in Toledo. He can start the team. Maybe he joins a big league club next year. Maybe he's trade bait. I don't know. But the bottom line is, if you're going to screw over Erie playoff-wise because you want him in Toledo, and for what? Toledo has 3 or 4 weeks left, and he's not going to get regular playing time because with the way they have the platoon right now. So,
yeah. Well, and it's we've talked about this before. That there's you get storms in
over here.
Yeah. There's the kind of this obsession with minor leaguers with progress. You got to get to progress. I compared it to capitalism before, right? Like, oh, they're doing well, but they didn't do as well as last year, so you lose money. Like, people need to see him. It's not enough for him to just be kicking ass and playing well. They need to see him do it at the next level immediately. And it's like, is it really going to make a huge difference in Justice Bigby's future or prospect profile if he spends the last month of the season in Toledo? I don't think so. We've seen certain guys like Joe or Colt Keith has been struggling a little bit relative to his own lofty expectations because I think that's something we talked about before is that he has a tendency to swing at pitches that he can't necessarily do damage on. He's not nearly as bad as some of the Tigers of recent years, Victor Reyes and Willie Castro, but the AAA pitchers are better at locating to the edges, and Keith can and does hit those balls hard, but he just needs to make that next step where he's waiting for the pitch that he can really crush. So Bigby might get a good challenge there in Toledo, but he's another guy that they theoretically could send to the Arizona Fall League if they wanted to. But the other problem there is Toledo doesn't really have center fielder right now. They've got like an army of guys playing out of position or playing. Right. Their center fielder tonight was Ryan Kreidler. And he looks pretty good in center field, actually. He's arguably the second best defensive center fielder in the system. But I think they play Perez at center. They've got Malloy in right sometimes. Malloy playing third. They've got Keith. They're just, I don't know if they want to shove another, Bigby's a fine defender, but, I don't think defense is going to be a huge asset for him, right? He's going to be okay. I don't know if they want to add another piece to that puzzle in Toledo when they're trying to fit these other guys everywhere.
Tell you what, if Kreidler keeps playing some outfield, is he basically replace McKinstry next year?
Yeah, I think so.
Or Zach Short.
Yeah.
As I used to call Kreidler, Zach Tall. But yeah, they love his defense, and they know they're gonna, if they play him, they're gonna get above average to plus defense at shortstop, at third base, probably at second base, and maybe in the outfield. So, and that's basically, to your point, that's basically what McKinstry is giving the Tigers now. His offense fell off a cliff. He's walking a little bit more lately, or doing okay, but it's not nearly the guy he was in May or whatever.
Right.
But they, I don't think AJ Hinch worries at all if you put McKinstry on defense. Like, he's going to be a very good defender just about everywhere he plays. So that's it. It could be Kreidler. I think they would love to bring him up as the last. As we talk about the September call-ups, it'll be interesting to see who does actually get called up, because they do have a bunch of options. But it's like, who do they?
Oh, I think we lost him again.
Yeah, I think he's on the right track. I think with only 28 spots, they get to call up 2 people. They do have so many to choose from, but it would be good to. I'm a Kreidler guy. I've seen him play enough times in person. I want him to get a shot once again, and hopefully stay healthy.
Yeah, and you know what, Andre Lipsius too. He's in the 40-man. There's Winfield Perez. There's a lot of guys that they have to consider.
Yeah,
outside of Colt Keith too, because I know if Kreidler goes up, a lot of fans are just gonna lose their mind. I think a lot of fans are gonna be upset, but again, they have to really evaluate for the future, because Keith's gonna be here no matter what.
Right.
But they have to really make some. The Uber before we get out of here, I mean, you really think about it. West Michigan's, by the way, is the game up on Fort Wayne for first place in the Midwest League East. So they're in that playoff spot in Lakeland right now after the win tonight over Clearwater, have a 2-game lead, and they're 33-18, and they're, again, having a fantastic, wow, it's getting pretty bad out here. So I'm going to wrap this up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, because the whole, to my last year, my window just lit up like a Christmas tree. But no, we're in a unique position here as fans to see that they have to make some tough decisions to make because they have players that can, I don't know, believe it or not, could make a trade. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to saying like Ryan Kryler is going to be getting you a pretty prospect or anything, but they have to make some tough decisions. They really do.
Well, and you know, I mean, for a team that is 11 games under 500 and has a run differential of almost negative 100, right? This is in the 90s. They are in a fairly good spot where they have some AAA depth. They have a team with some young players who are seemingly on the rise. They need to make some of these decisions that you're talking about. And if they get just enough of them correct for next year, this might be a team that can move toward the top of the division. But they have to see what a Kreidler can give them over the course of a regular season. And the sooner they get a good look at him, the better. Same with Lipsia, same with Malloy. But the depth is starting to be there, which is something we weren't able to say not that long ago.
Yeah, and they might have to be creative. Like Nick Spillane had a good idea about giving a Yankee prospect for taking Stanton's contract, but I'm not interested in Mike Stanton. I'm sorry, I'm just Giancarlo Stanton. I'm not. He's too injury prone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he might. Is there one big season left in the tank? I suppose that's possible, but man, that guy gets injured in a stiff breeze.
Yeah, I mean, he literally moves a muscle and he's injured. So we're out of time. Thank you so much for listening to Motor City Metrics here at TigerRiderReport.com. You can check us out Sunday. We're going to be doing a live show on Sunday starting at 9:00, and we'll do the Week 20 recap as we'll be recapping all the minor league action. And hopefully my voice is not where I'm coughing like crazy. Thank you so much for everybody who participated in Super Chats today. Gave us donations. And we really appreciate that. It goes a long way. And we'll be, like I said, Sunday we'll be back. I'm working on an article right now, State of the Tiger Farm System, but it's going to be out in a couple days. I'm working on just kind of looking at a lot of metrics and baseline averages. Of course, we're on the show. 80 Bayjack was like, are you going to make sure you're going to include every, other like rule changes? Yes. This is why it's not one of those pieces that's going to take a day. I'm not, it's going to take some time. But until Sunday, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
And stay safe if you're Michigan.